Hello. Okay, I am a few minutes late. My apologies. But I'm going to start very soon. All right. Let's see. Yes. I am very slowly mastering the secrets of OBS. And now I have some scenes I can switch through. I have that one and this one. Wow. Fade in, fade out. So professional. Hello. So this is the one I want. And what I'm going to do today, well, first of all, I'm trying to fix my issues that I had on the first stream, which were, I think one issue was that the sound wasn't quite right. It was probably, I was assuming that my microphone was able to pick things up from further away than it really is able to. So I moved it a little bit closer, and I'm keeping an eye on the volume meter. So this is the, I'm also keeping an eye on my video here. This is the first drawing that we did yesterday. Well, I did, and you watched me do. And this is not what I want to do, sorry. Transform. Yes, it is. Why did it not do what I wanted? Strange. I think my computer might be slightly more busy than usual. So I think it's just taking a few seconds to update. Yeah, okay, got it. So this is the first one, which is meant to be a streaming live waiting room of sorts. And this is the scan that I did today. I didn't do anything to it just yet, so I'm going to do stuff now. Let's see. So I just cropped it, and so the first thing I'm going to do is to do what people called threshold effect. So you can see that this was digitized with levels of gray. So some of the parts of the lines are darker, some are lighter, depending on what the original drawing was and how the scanner worked. And to make it a bit cleaner, the first thing I do is to do a threshold. So what this does is it will decide if a certain value is more black than a certain threshold. It will make it completely black and otherwise completely white. So that removes some of the nuance from the original drawing, but it makes things more clear cut and just cleaner. And this little interface here is only about adjusting that level of threshold. So if I put it too far to the right, see that everything is going to be more black than I want, or just completely black. And if it's too far to the left, then the lines really aren't black at all. So I need to find some, usually just around here, some value that works. And because I had added this speech bubble after the fact yesterday. I need to fix this a little bit and remove parts of the drawing that shouldn't be visible. It should be hidden by the speech bubble here. Right, there's a few more around here, and actually I see some dirt. There might be some pieces of pencil that I didn't erase properly, or there might be some dirt on the scanner digitizing glass or anywhere in the process, which would lead to some small artifacts, like here, for instance. There's another one here. That might be some pencil, not sure. Here it's probably a line that I also didn't erase properly. This is also almost certainly a pencil line that I didn't do such a good job at removing. Please let me know in the chat if there's any issue with the sound or the video. I know it wasn't very smooth yesterday. Apologies for that. Seems like my computer and Twitch are telling me that things seem to be okay now. So I'm going to assume things are at least reasonably watchable, but if not, please don't be shy and let me know in the chat if I need to change anything. Otherwise, I'm just going to mind my little business here and do my little drawing. I also hope my keyboard doesn't do too much noise. The microphone isn't really aimed at the keyboard, so I hope it doesn't pick up too much of it. But it's one of those nerdy mechanical keyboards that I think many people are cursing the hell out of when they're in a open workspace. But since I'm on my own, I have a keyboard that is maybe not as quiet as it would be, or as I would have chosen if I was in a shared workspace or an open workspace. So right now I am just doing some cleanup to remove mistakes that I did before, either from the pencil phase or just because I did a bad job at the inking parts. Just to make things a little bit smoother, even though I don't want to make them too smooth either, because I want to have them remain handmade, not completely computer made and have perfect curves everywhere, computer generated, but maybe some kind of middle ground between these two. Maybe I should look into licensing some music from Twitch to add some music here, but I think we're fine with some silence as well. I assume that people don't mind silence. Maybe you all want more silence. Manu, shut the fuck up. Okay, I don't want to overdo it. So, some other small things, just because it's difficult to center a text by hand. Okay, so first thing I need to do is to add an alpha channel here. I will maybe explain some of what I'm doing later. But basically, right now I'm just moving things around a tiny bit. And you see my the parentheses here. Parenthesis is a bit too close to the edge, so I'm going to make this a little bit more separated, clean. And I think that's the, I'm sure there are some scientific studies on this, on how people's behavior change when they're being observed. Obviously, if someone is doing anything nefarious, they would probably not do it if someone saw them doing it. Well, if they knew that someone was watching. But I think it also applies in my case, because if I know someone's watching, I will maybe take a little bit more care in what I'm doing than I would if I was just by myself. So you can see that as I'm moving stuff around, I'm leaving some areas here that are transparent, but that's okay for now. Okay. The idea here is I'm going to first rename this, call it lines. So this is this piece of software is called GIMP. GIMP. Here it is. It is pretty much an open source equivalent to something like Photoshop. And I put a few windows on the left here. This is the list of layers that I have. And I'm going to create a new layer called colors, and I'm going to make it white by default. And it's going to be on top of that one, so I want to make it, put it underneath. And I'm going to use this feature called, I guess, the layer mode, and this one will be called multiply. So what it does is that I will only be adding colors to the bottom layer, the one called colors, so I will not be modifying the line drawing any longer. But because the top layer is in this multiply mode, instead of having the top layer as if you had pieces of paper, one above each another, the top one will, each pixel will be multiplied with the one below. And I'm eating a banana at the same time, sorry. So what this allows me to do, let me give you an example. Let's say that I want to color, oops, what do I want to color? Maybe the face of this guy here. So this guy is me. So I'm going to give it a pinkish, slightly red hue of skin tone. Right. So, and here the colors layer is focused. So as you can see that I'm applying colors here, but because because the lines layer is above, I'm not actually erasing the line. But because of this multiply mode here, both of these appear. I hope this makes some sense. It's a bit like if you had two pieces of white paper, and the top one, instead of being plain white paper, is tracing paper. So you can see what's on the tracing paper, but you can also see what's below. And I think I need to get myself a beefier computer, because the stream encoding plus the image editing is bringing my computer to its knees. So instead of using, it's going to be maybe a bit more manual, but that's okay. Instead of using the paint bucket feature, which sometimes take a bit of time to detect all the borders, I'm going to just do it by hand. It might still take me longer, but at least I won't be waiting around for stuff to happen. And we got our first spam message. Last time we got a couple at the start and then no more afterwards, so I didn't really take care of it. I'm going to hope that this will stop here. But by all means, if you want to become famous, click on that link and get scanned in all the ways you can think of. Alright, so one thing I would like to do is make most of the background transparent. So let's see, what color should I give myself? Well, I'm in black right now, but maybe I'll do something more colorful to be less boring. So it will be a version of me that is less boring than in real life me. And because there's no hard border here, I'm going to just do a bit of jiggling here to make it not such a clear-cut limit. And I did this first part so that I can use the paint bucket on the rest, and the bottom border that I just drew should manage to stop the spread of the color to the rest of the drawing, even though it does leave a little white thin outline that I just removed. Come on, Mr. Computer, help me out here. Okay, I'll do the rest by hand. I think one of the issues is that my graphics card isn't really playing nicely with Twitch or with the streaming software that I'm using. So some of the work needs to be done by the main processor. You say processor or processor? Processor. And that is that much less processing power for what I'm actually doing. All right. And these two as well. If you're watching this live, please feel free to ask any questions on the chat. If you're watching this later, say on YouTube, because I think I will do the same as I did yesterday and just upload this to YouTube. Feel free to ask questions as comments as well. So what I'm going to do now is I will select the background here. I think I'm having some weird issues with my keyboard. Some modifier key seems to be pressed all the time somehow. So I'm now waiting for my computer to finish selecting this. Okay. Alright, so now you can see that everything that is really not part of the drawing is, might be hard to see if it's selected, but there's a bit of an animation to indicate what's selected. Yeah, I think I have a modifier key that is not playing nice. And if I press the delete key, that will remove this part of the background that I don't really need. And we'll do the same for these little pieces. So this allows me to place this drawing on any background, and instead of having a white rectangle around it, the existing background will be visible. But then again, I might very well just put it on a white background, so this will be useless, but it's easier to do now and not worry about it later. So the stopwatch, what color should that be? Some kind of metal, probably. Let's say sort of gray shade. The hourglass, I'm realizing that I didn't really draw a border to show the bottom of this little part here that is going down. Let's do it this way. And is this sand? What is it? First, maybe I'll do the glass part. Let's say that this is a very light shade of blue. Oops. Wrong layer. That is, still wrong layer. What am I doing? That is probably one of the things that people who draw spend the most time doing stuff on the wrong layer. Where am I? Did I do this wrong? I think I might have a modified key that's bothering me again. There we go. Yeah, this really, I need to get myself a computer beast that will have a lot of CPUs and a lot of processing power. So I'm going to apply the blue on this part of the hand as well. But I will also apply some amount of skin tone as well. So for this I'm going to put the opacity down a bit. Maybe a little more. That seems about right. So now I'm going to just use this color as is. Put the opacity back to 100. And this is just so that I can do things in several times, because if I pick a color and set an opacity on it, and then if I do things in several strokes, well, let me show an example. Let's say that I have opacity about 45 here, and then do 1, 2, 3. It's not super clear on this example. Let me do this just to show what I mean. 1 stroke, 2 strokes, yeah. So if I want a uniform color, this will be a bit difficult to do this way. So it's better to I pick my opacity once, and then I get a sample of the resulting color, and then I set the opacity back to 100 and just use that filling color. I hope this makes sense. And then dark brown for the hair. I think I'm being a bit generous with myself here. My hair is maybe more black than this, but hey, it's a drawing. It is not reality. My nose isn't really that big. Well, close. Bucket fill. I want to look into the source code of what this bucket fill thing does, because I'm sure it's doing something not very efficient somewhere. The area I was trying to fill was really not that big, and there's something fishy in here. And let's see. If I think that the light is coming from here, then these hair that are kind of perked up will be a bit darker, because they're in the shadow. And this really looks like a Belgian comic book character, which I'm sure you've seen if you're come from Europe. I'm copying his hairstyle. It really looks like some flat, what do you call this? Flat layers of hair. It's not really very realistic. Okay, I went over the lines a bit here. Yeah, these two shades of brown really aren't that different. So maybe I will select this one and make it a tiny bit lighter. Just so that there's more difference and you can see that there's an actual shadow. Because otherwise there's really no point in having different colors. Mm-hmm. And let's see, the sand, maybe I will make it some different color. Okay, let's say it's a very high-tech hourglass with some vivid colored fluid that is flowing down. How about this? This doesn't really look very natural, does it? Alright, never mind. I will make it sand. So, some kind of sandy color. Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's a bit of sand already at the bottom here. And then some sand is flowing down. Okay, now for some shadows. So I'm selecting the color first, so that I don't affect any other part of the drawing, and just add shadow to this part. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, if the light is coming from the top left, maybe I'll do something like this. Yeah. Do this in several layers. And then there's some shadow under the nose. Given the size of the nose, obviously needs some shadow underneath. And then I'll reuse some of this color here to keep going with the shadow onto the neck. And maybe a bit more here. And the glasses also cast some shadows. So this part of the glass, or the glasses frame, is further away. So probably need something like this. Shadow in the ears, shadow under the hair, maybe. Nah, that's too much. And shadow on the hand as well. Okay, I did a bad job at selecting my colors here. another piece here, and I think this should not be part of the hand, this part here. Oops. This part. That is between the fingers. Right. And we'll color that gray in a few seconds. All right. And then I also want some shadows on this hand. And then on the red t-shirts, let's see, how does this work? So for this one, maybe I'll make it a bit simpler. I'm going to create a simple shadow color here, and then just going to use this instead of using that special shadow tool. So we have this part, it's in the shadow, and maybe this part of the arm. Let's do this one first. The speech bubble doesn't cast a shadow, but it might be funny if it did. We try to make it pretend like it's part of the real world. That would be an interesting development for the comic style. That's another thing that I really need to read a big book about, shadows. Just like perspective, because I'm really just doing it in a very simplistic way. Which I think is, well, it's visually simple, it works, but it probably doesn't really pass the test of realism or realistic looking stuff. So yeah, maybe this part of the neck is also slightly above, so it casts also a bit of a shadow. These are really details that are not going to be obvious if you zoom out a bit, but that's a bad case of perfectionism, or yeah, it's fun to make. Shadows are really I would say they're actually the most fun part of the drawing process, because it really makes things come to life if you if you do it properly, at least. Okay, so there's already a notion of shadow here, because these are already darker. But maybe if I also apply a bit here, just to blend in, And then on the other side, a bit of a light spot. That's where the supposed sunlight or light is hitting the surface. And yeah, again, that's probably not very realistic, but for some colors I think it's easier to, instead of using the shadow or highlight tool, it's easier to just use white with a non 100% opacity. For colors like yellow or bright red like this one, seems like the shadow tools, they don't really catch on for some reason. Might be different in some other pieces of software. And yeah, so this is glass. If I want to make it look like glass, I also need some something like reflections. Not quite sure what looks best. Maybe I will use a thicker paintbrush. Maybe if I make it overlap with the sand, it will be more obvious. Yeah, so actually this is an instance of, I need a new layer, because all these are under the lines layer. So this is how transparency. If I want some reflection, and this should really also hide this this line that shows where the sand is. So I think this will look better. Oops. But it also deserves some proper shadow on the side, but I'm on the wrong layer, this layer. Yeah, you see in this instance it's quite obvious that the, the shadow tool is catching on to the sand color a lot better than on the blue, so I'm going to do it a few more times on the blue side. And I know I'm messing up my other shadows here, but I'm going to fix that later, like right now. And restore color of this finger here. For anyone tuning in, I'm drawing a, this is very meta, isn't it? I'm streaming something about a drawing that I will use on future streams, which will be shown when I ask people to wait for a few minutes while I prepare for the stream. I think I need a bit more shadow levels on this side. Let's try that. It's also a way to try and indicate what the shape of this thing is and give more visual cues that this is an hourglass, even though I'm hoping that it should be obvious in the context, but you never know, and it's always reassuring when some extra visual cues showing you, hey, what am I doing here? Actual visual cues that show you that you're not wrong in what you've guessed what this is what this is. Okay. So the shadow is on the glass and the hand is behind the glass, so I guess the shadow should also apply to the hands. Yeah. There might also be some shadow to the actual sand. I wonder how that will look. Let's see. Because the sand is also a mass all by itself. And no, I don't think I quite understand the optics of this properly, so I'm not going to try to pretend I understand. But yeah, I don't think this really works well. Maybe it's the same shadow, and I'll just prolong this one a bit this way. Alright. The glasses, I've only done some shadow for the bottom of the frame, but I think I also need some shadow here. Even though it's very slight, but it's there. Some shadow here maybe too. And also on the ears. Those are some big ears. Alright. Also on this guy, some gray left over here. Okay, so the hand is also probably blocking some light, although maybe not in this direction, more in this direction. Blocking some of the light that would have been on the stopwatch. Like this. Maybe some shadow here as well. And this being metal, maybe there's also should be some highlight as well. I'm going to do a bit of a thin white border. Maybe that's too white. Alright. I don't think the shadow on the nose is quite right, but doesn't look too bad. And I just noticed I haven't saved yet, so if something bad had happened, I would be in a bad shape. Today is November 22nd, and I will call this waiting room. So that's one. Now, second one. That is the second drawing that I scanned from yesterday. And this one I might need to fix some of my perspective as well. Transform, rotate. Right. I'm going to start by cropping this a bit, so we don't need so much white bleed on all sides. How's everyone doing? You're all so quiet in the chat. Don't be shy. Come say hi. So, same as the other one, I will start by having a threshold. To make the lines more better defined. This looks about right. And I'm going to save this right away, unlike the other one, 10 seconds. And this will be Whack-A-Lphabet. Alright. So this layer is lines. Just doing the same thing as the other one. It's not what I wanted. Layer colors. This will be white, and it will be underneath. And in multiply mode. Right, so I'm going to start by erasing the outline here that I don't need. Same thing as the first drawing. That will allow me to put this on any color background and blend in a bit better. Then there's my signature here, and as I said yesterday, I want to have it around for people who might want to identify the drawing, but I also don't want it to be in the way. It's not such a grandiose work of art that I would be so proud of it that I would put my signature in huge letters. So I'm putting it on a separate layer and making it less opaque. And that will depend on the background color that I use later. So this being a drawing for Google and Google employees, I usually try to make them very colorful, just like the Google's logo colors. Very simple primary colors: red, yellow, blue, green. And I want to have some amount of balance between them. So depending on the colors that I pick, that will influence, for instance, the color of this whole game board. Yeah, see, I think you cannot subtract from an empty selection. I think subtract would be usually the control key, but I'm not having control pressed, so I'm probably doing something wrong with my modifier keys. It's not too painful for now, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And I will erase some of the glitches or all the artifacts coming from the scanning process or from my sloppy erasing of the pencil. Or just strokes that shouldn't be there. That's one of the arguments for drawing digitally directly. You can zoom in so much closer and then you can see how bad the initial drawing is. 95 Google cell phone call phone rebrand. T-bod-T. What is this about? I'm probably not going to look at the link right now. Is this about the is this about a redesign of the Google Voice product? I think given the rate of product renaming and deprecation and redesign and everything, regardless of what I do, this will be out of date very quickly. Oh, and my opacity needs to be 100 here, otherwise I'm not erasing completely. It's relevant to the current comic, okay? In what way? Is it also criticizing Google's policy of renaming things a bit too much or just changing stuff around? I'm also going to center this. I really need to fix my modifier thing. You can't paste images into the chat. Hi, Pierre. No, I don't think you can. Is it? I don't know Twitch that well, so I'm going to assume that is not my failure to enable some feature, and it's just a limitation of Twitch itself. Google Phone, Google Call. Huh. So the phone application is going to be Call instead. It's going to be called Call. Is that the idea? I should really be paying attention to what I'm actually doing here. And I just wanted to center this a bit better. And same thing with that one. The logo change isn't bringing much more. You mean the logo change of the phone app? Is that what's happening? Sorry, I'm confused, as I'm sure many users are, as to what is happening in Google land. I guess I had questions about pros and cons, tablets, drawings, and also potential filters. Yeah, please go ahead. Feel free to ask any question you want. Absolutely. I assume you mean drawing tablets. Oops. GIMP might not have the magic Photoshop has. I don't know. Maybe. I think I've seen. I mean, I've also worked with Photoshop quite a bit, and I've seen plenty of evidence that the performance isn't quite what you'd expect either. So, at least from my experience, I mean, obviously, Adobe has a bunch of employees who are paid full time um, to improve the product. So I'm sure there's many more features. But for what I do, I think this is working really well. I don't really need any extra features. I'm a GIMP user, okay. For the work you're doing, smoothing edges. Smoothing edges, you mean the edges of these lines? I don't really need them to be necessarily super smooth. I don't care that much. I mean, once, let's see, what is the 100%? Yeah, I see the scale here. So this is 100%. You can see that the lines aren't super smooth. And my Android looks really terrible. It looks very sick somehow. Looks like an Android that's eaten a bad cupcake or a bad froyo. It's a froyo that's past the best before dates. But if I once I resize this to a of a more normal size, I don't think the edges will look that bad. I don't really need much more of an edge smoothing feature, but maybe I'm not understanding what I'm missing. That's absolutely possible. Better centering. So how much of my sloppy perspective do I need to fix? I think this calendar mole hole here needs to be a bit higher. So that's one. What else do I need to fix? Maybe this Hangouts one needs to be a bit more to the left, I think. I'm going to try it out. And that's another benefit of pure digital drawing would have been that I could have changed things around more dynamically as I was doing it, as opposed to fixing it after the fact. So, yeah, a bit more to the left. Alright, well, it's never going to be perfect, but at least I think it's a bit better. Well, it's never going to be perfect, not even good for perspective. I'm also learning many things about GIMP. Yeah, even though I'm sure the feature set is much smaller than what Photoshop does, but still there's plenty to learn. So I think I'm going to make the moles match what the products are supposed to be, at least so far. So for instance, YouTube is red. There should be a system to grab key pressed for shortcuts. Isn't that the way it happens now? Let me see. Granted, I don't do this very often, but keyboard shortcuts. Let's say I want to have a shortcut for anti-alias. So I clicked on this, it says new accelerator, and if I do, let's see, Alt Y, tangent shortcut failed. Well, that wasn't such a good example. Maybe it's already assigned to something else. Maybe Control M. Control M is already taken by blah 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 reassign. Okay, I'm not going to do it, but on the live stream, grab keep. Oh, I see. You mean to show to viewers which keys I'm pressing? Is that what you mean? I agree. That would be nice. I'm sure there must be a plugin for this. To learn them. Yeah. I agree, that would be nice. There might be I need to look into this. It might exist already. But I'm not using that many shortcuts. I think I'm just, I think what I'm doing is really more switching between tools, and you can see by the shape of my cursor which tool I'm using. So I think these are the main things I have. So I have I think the 4 main ones that I have is this one for brush, this one for sampling, kind of picking the color and getting the color from the drawing, this one being fill, bucket fill, and this one being the what they call the magic wand, which is maybe that's a Photoshop term, selection tool. 1, 2, 3, 4. This really is the only, or maybe the main ones that I have. And I'm not even sure I'm using the default ones. Screen key show key presses screen Ubuntu. So that would be at the operating system level as opposed to something used by OBS or Twitch, right? Do you know the precise hex codes to use? What do you mean by hex codes? I'm only using let me show you. Keyboard shortcuts. Oops. So let's see the ones I'm using. So I have I for bucket fill. Oh, precise hex code to use, you mean for the colors? No, okay. No, I do not know the precise hex codes. This is really approximation. But I do think that the Google Voice green is a bit darker. Doesn't need to be exactly the same. Yeah, it's also closer to blue. I think it's more of a blue green. You're sleepy. I hope I'm not making you sleepy. Granted, I'm not a super hyper person in general, and this stream is certainly not very hyper either. Well, I guess maybe I should sell it as one of the features of the stream. Putting you to sleep in less than an hour. No sheep counting. Just watch this stream and you will sleep like a baby. So obviously G+ doesn't really exist as it used to any longer, but it's also red. Does it even really exist anymore? I know that inside Google it's been switched to something called currents that I don't even really know what the difference is. Oh, for the hex code confusion. Got it. It's alright. I don't mind at all. So for some of these logos, I'm using the old logos. And for some, I'm going to use the newer ones. But the issue is that the old ones are more recognizable, at least in my mind. That's something I wanted to do at some point, was to make a game or just an application that would present you with, say, 20 or 30 logos and challenge you to maybe find Gmail among them and see how long it takes you, and do this with both the old and the new logos. Currents appears to be just plus with a new name and a rewritten front end. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm not even sure whether the front end has been rewritten. Maps icon. So that's something I need to look up because I don't know where the colors are. And to be honest, I'm not even sure how much of a rewrite G plus was as opposed to Buzz. I mean, I'm sure there's many more features and a different code base, but it felt to me like there was a lot of things that were reused. I might be wrong. Red. Why is this thing here? I don't recall adding this. So this is red. And there's some dark blue, or deeper blue here. And some lighter blue here. Yeah, I could say, sometimes I do this when it's really critical that I get the colors right. I will just grab the logo from online and re-import this and get the proper colors, but in this particular case I don't think it's that important to have the exact colors. I just want to have something that's recognizable. So that is the new Maps logo. For Drive, I'm going to look up what the Drive logo is. The Drive logo. Should I use the old one or the new one? They're not that different. The new one has a bit of red. Alright, I'll use the new one. So, red goes here. Come on, GIMP, be a bit faster. Alright, I'll do it by hand. Red, okay, this is yellow. Yellow goes this part. Green, that's some sort of light green, but maybe it should still be a bit darker. Goes here. Dark green in this area. I guess it didn't really divide them properly. My line drawing isn't exactly what it should be, but close enough. and light blue here. Very colorful. Android is also green, but maybe more of a yellowish green, something like, yeah, even more yellow, maybe like this. I need to get myself a faster machine. The issue is that the faster, usually the heavier. I don't like to lug very heavy things around. At one point, Google employees had this t-shirt that read, "My other computer is a data center." But in this case, it might be a bit difficult. Is that more visible with various colors next to one another as opposed to one color? Good question. Yeah, maybe. So in this case, if I had only either Hangouts or this Google Voice logo, maybe the shade of green wouldn't be very important. But in this case, because I have the two of them, then it's more important to get the more precise shade of green, right? So yeah, I think that's a good point. For calendar, I wonder if I should be using calendar logo. Should I be using the old logo or the new logo? I guess the old logo doesn't really look like this anyway, so I've already made my choice. So I will use the new logo. Oops. Not green. And color inside the lines. That's something I should have learned since I was, what, 4, 5? Guess my drawing abilities haven't really evolved that much since then. Still not able to draw within the lines. Red. Yeah, it's not exactly the same logo, but recognizable, I hope. Light green. Dark green. Calendar. Someone also mentioned that using 31 in the logo is really the worst choice you can make because it's the most rare day. But that's beside the point, I think. Besides the point. It needs to be just recognizable. So now if I use similar colors, this color picker thing here is, I must have done something that brings it up because I don't remember doing this by choice. Hi Ryan, I see a dog icon. I'm on Android.com homepage. Okay, you're painting on a separate layer for colors. I'm learning. Yes, so I have this colors layer underneath and the lines layer above that is set to this multiply mode. I think that's what most people do. At least that's what I've been doing for many years. I assume other people do the same thing. So yeah, it allows you to have the colors and drawing on a different layer, not to erase your lines, but have both visible, if that makes sense. So I don't want to use exactly the same shade, but something similar. Come on, computer. Okay. And then Gmail will be a dark red mole. Dark red mole. That sounds like something you would find on your skin, doesn't it? A dark red mole. Calendar used to be blue, so I will use a shade of blue for this one. Then Hangouts, green, maybe darker, maybe lighter actually, light green. I think Whack-A-Mole games often use vivid colors. This is for kids, right? That would make sense. And then Drive. Let's see, I have 2 left. What colors didn't I use yet? Maybe I'll use some orange and yellow, just to have some balance. Let's do yellow here. I would be using the bucket fill tool more, but my computer is being slow enough doing it that I think it's a bit better if I do it by hand. Okay, so the goal of having a wide array of vivid colors is that we can tick that checkbox. Now I'm wondering what should I use for the game itself. Maybe I'll use blue. Something like baby blue, or let's try it out. Something like this. Processing. Okay, I think that doesn't look too bad. Also, this little piece. Right. And now the size of the game. I will make them. Maybe this one is closer to the light, so I will use something brighter. Yeah, something like this. I'm drawing a border here so that if I use the bucket fill, it will stop here and not fill the whole side. And then fix this border. Okay, let me sample this color again and use something darker now, which means I will need to rewrite this Whack-A-Lphabet in white, because otherwise it won't really show on the dark background. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Some letters are watertight. Some letters are not watertight. I had a math teacher in high school, I think when I was maybe 16 or 17, when we were learning second degree equations and parabolas. And the way that he would try to make us remember, I don't think it was a very good way, but trying to make us remember, you know, some parabolas are like this, and then some other ones are like this. And the way he would try to make us remember is that he would say some of them are hold water, and some of them don't hold water. And I think I was always confused by this idea because in theory, parabolas are infinite, right? So there's no part of it through which the water can enter. So really, they're both watertight in a way. So the way I drew these colors assumes that the light is coming sort of from the left, from here. I'm trying to decide whether I should flip these two. Yeah, maybe I'll flip these two. It's gonna take a few more seconds of waiting for the computer to fill stuff up. Oops. Nope. What's going on? What am I doing wrong? Bucket fill. This has to do with my modifier keys again. Yeah, I really need to fix this. I'm not sure what is happening. Hello, computer. Is that because of the high res of your scan? Yeah, probably. I'm sure it doesn't help. But even given this, I do have a gut feeling that it should be faster, because it's really slow even for very small areas. But yeah, you're absolutely right that it doesn't help at all. I tend to use the highest definition that I can have on the scanner, unless I know that I'm going to be stitching many images together, and it's going to be hell to make it work. It will be such a huge image. Plus the streaming, yes, that absolutely. I was saying earlier that I think the driver, either the driver or the graphics card that I'm using, or the streaming software, one of these pieces isn't working well with the other ones. So it's using the CPU to encode the stream, which obviously doesn't help. Because I need my CPU for other stuff, like the drawing. But yeah, you are absolutely correct. So now what I'm going to do is select by color. I'm going to select all the black stuff on this drawing, and I'm going to make a new layer that I will call overlay, and it will be transparent. And I'm going to pick some white and go over these letters in white, taking care to not go over the other lines of other objects. I often think to myself, this is so much time and effort for a silly joke. But humor is important, at least attempts at being funny and not taking things too seriously. And it's worth spending time on. But the sillier the idea, the more often I say this to myself. Is this really worth it for just a bad pun or a silly joke? Okay. Now the mole holes need some dark colors. Let me take this one as a base, and it should probably be even darker. Okay, so I'm gonna go crazy on these, and I'm just going to use the paint buckets in sequence. And then my computer will take a long time to fill it in. Definitely, says the audience. Yes. The audience is always right. But yes, you're absolutely correct that I think I need to blame the resolution of my drawing as well as the streaming. Those are the two main factors. OBS is telling me that it's using about 35% of my CPU. I don't know whether it's what it is using or if it's everything, but I assume if it's everything, it should be close to 100 because obviously my computer is struggling a bit to keep up with my bucket filling. So it must be the streaming's own usage. So, taking the time to draw in color. You're saying it's worth it? Thank you for validating my attempt. This is a distressing amount of time spent on a single bucket fill. I agree. Maybe I should be, I will send this video, I will attach this to a bug report for the GIMP. That's what is amazing with laptops and computers. I have the same feeling of sluggishness as when I was a teen. Yes, that's true. Maybe it's something to do with the saying that nature doesn't like emptiness or a vacuum. So all the usage that we make of computers will always catch up to the computing power that we have. Well, both the usage and the bad practices of software people, of which I include myself in this group. But yeah, I agree. It's way too long to spend in this occurrence on filling this area. I mean, okay, so this is 100%. So this is number of pixels that you're looking at here, and yeah, granted, it is a big image overall, but I'm pretty sure the bucket fill algorithm is doing something not very efficient somewhere in the background. Okay, so I still have these white borders here, so I'm going to select them by color. Select all the remaining white pixels. That will make it easier and quicker to color. And I'm reusing the blue on this side because it seems like they should be about the same color because they're facing the same directions. And I think we can assume that they're all made of the same material, at least the same color. Okay. I think some of the blue from the background should also show through some of these logos, like here. Maybe not the envelope, but maybe this one too. Right. So now I need to decide what colors to use for the other parts. Let's assume that since we already have a bunch of blue, I can make the table sort of a reddish brown if it's made of wood. Maybe because this is a 100 megapixel image and GIMP isn't doing GPU acceleration. Let's see how many megapixels this is. Scale image. So right now this layer is 7.5 gigabytes. That's something. Yeah, that's probably completely uncompressed in RAM. Let's see, 10,000 by 6,000. How many megapixels is that? 10,000 by 6,000. 60 megapixels. Is that right? A bit less than 100, but yeah. GPU side processing is still optional, but available for systems with stable OpenCL drivers. Okay, I'm going to save before I do anything risky. Yeah, I think Pierre and T-Bot T, you are both 65,000 pixels. 65 million pixels, yes, you're right. Thank you. Thank you for the computation. Let's see, preferences. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Yeah, I'm using this OpenCL. I think I tried not using it, and I don't remember having much difference. So either it's not working at all, and whether it is enabled or not doesn't make any difference, or doesn't help that much. But it is checked, yeah. expect slowdowns and possible crashes. Maybe I will try next time to disable it, but I'm pretty sure I remember trying that, and the bucket fills were as slow and maybe even slower. But I should try it again. So for my table, yeah, I'm going to use some shade of brown. Let's try it this way. And I will use the infamous bucket fill again. Processing. Okay. Okay, I think that works. These are the times where I feel like throwing some money at the problem, as people say, and just getting a heck of a lot of CPU power. Fairly sure bucket fill doesn't support OpenCL. Aha! Well, that would explain it. But still, even I was a while ago as part of the Inbox team, the product that was initially designed to be a successor to Gmail, and I had a tech lead that I really liked called named Gregory Baker. Hi, Greg, if you're watching. And yeah, I really liked him because he was friendly and he was technically really good, and he works for Twitter now. And I remember he was complaining. We were trying to profile the application and make it faster, and one of the issues that we had was performance with drawing rounded corners. If you're looking to throw money at the problem, Photoshop probably manages to accelerate it more. That's true. Although Photoshop doesn't run on Linux, although I could run it in emulation. But yeah, maybe that would be one way. But that would be a monthly subscription sort of way, as opposed to a one-time buying a more powerful computer sort of way, which would also solve some of my streaming slowness woes. So anyway, Greg was profiling computing rounded corners, and at some point he was just upset at how slow it was, and he said something like, I thought we were dealing with computers here. I'm pretty sure I could draw a rounded corner by hand faster than this. And I feel like even if it's not GPU accelerated, I mean, this is not a huge job to detect. I mean, the threshold on all these is pretty clear, I think, between white and black here. I mean, granted, I'm using I have this checkbox here. Where is it? Sample merged. So it is computing probably the product of these 4 layers, but still, that's just 4 times. I feel like if I was doing it by hand, going through and doing the I assume it's this is going into nerdy territory, but breadth first search exploration, I'm pretty sure I could do it faster. I see buying computers to be a kind of like multi-year subscription. Hi, Just a Monad. Absolutely, you're right. Yes. But the thing is, with Photoshop, because they've switched to a subscription model, um, you can't stop paying. Like if you buy a movie, you can just pay once and stop paying anything and just watch it as many times as you want, as opposed to a subscription model. It is millions of pixels, I guess, given the resolution of this image. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm not being forgiving enough. I should give some credit to the CPU for working hard. But yeah, it's true. I guess if you spend, I don't know, $1,000 on a computer, it's sort of like paying $10 a month for a few years. Can you still do that buying a movie? Good question. I think you can. Well, at least you can buy a disc with the movie on it, right? You could buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, and then you're still tied to the manufacturer of the Blu-ray player. But assuming that doesn't fall apart, you can play it as many times as you want, right? Or you could buy it on Amazon, but then it's also within Amazon's control whether they want to stop letting you play that movie. But I think I'm a bit old school in this domain. I don't really love, especially for music, I don't really love having a all-you-can-eat subscription like Spotify. I prefer to pay for music on a single time basis, and then I own the MP3s, and I can manage my library myself. I think that I read they give up on developing an upcoming standard. You mean the standard that would have been the successor to Blu-ray? Is that because the streaming is really such a prominent model these days? I guess that would make sense. Maybe the sorry, the equivalent of Blu-ray would have been for 4K. I assume Blu-ray doesn't support 4K, does it? So it replaced Blu-ray. Yes, got it. Thanks. A couple months ago, I had breakfast with a good friend of mine who works for how is this called? It's like digital rights management company. It's a company that artists pay maybe a percentage to manage their rights, and to it's a sort of company or organization that will go and listen to concerts to make sure that people playing other people's songs have the proper license for doing so, or maybe they'll tune into different radios and stuff. And he was explaining the revenue sharing model of things like Spotify, and it was really interesting. It was very different from what you would expect, at least from what I expected. Okay, so what color should I make these mallets? Do we have enough colorful stuff? And should I just make them wooden mallets? I feel like I don't want to add too much more visual complexity, so maybe I'll just make them a shade of wooden color. So now again I'm selecting all the white pixels so that I can easily color what's remaining to be colored and still white, as opposed to one of the French ones is called Scam. Really. They have really nice offices near Parc-Monceau. Really, Scam. Okay. I only know about the ones called SACEM, S-A-C-E-M, which is close to Scam, but not quite. Okay, I'm going to use this color. See if this works. Maybe a bit lighter. Yeah, these right management companies, if they have very, very nice, fancy offices, you start wondering how much money they're redistributing to artists and how much their own run rate is. Should I be using the fill bucket for this? I'm still debating. I think it would still be faster, but I would be bored waiting for it. And at least if I do it by hand, I'm doing something. I have the illusion of being useful. Société civile des auteurs multimédia. Okay, it is Scam. Okay, that's funny. That sounds like something straight out of Monkey Island. I feel like if what's the name of the main creator of Monkey Island? I think it's Ron Gilbert, and then Tim Schafer was also part of the team and made the other ones, like Day of the Tentacle. I feel like if Ron Gilbert was going to design a game with a digital rights management company, he would totally call it Scam. Or maybe if the Monty Python had such a sketch, they would also probably use that. Well, it's unfortunate, but some acronyms have a different meaning in other languages that was not intended, and sometimes a bit unfortunate yet. Okay, I might change this color again later. And now for the mallet handles, I'm going to select the white again. Let's see, we're going on to 2 hours pretty soon, so I think Zune. What is Zune? Is that another name that? So that's the Microsoft, the old Microsoft music player, right? Did it mean something in another language? I don't think I remember that. Zune. Yes. Okay, I take it it's a impolite word, so you will not tell us what it is. I guess it's easy enough to look it up. What happened with my white selection thing here? Didn't seem to do what I expected it to do. Maybe I'm not using a threshold. Yeah, it's a pretty low threshold, so I think I'm doing something wrong. Oh, that's my modifier key again, because I keep adding to the current selection. I really need to fix that. Maybe it's some key on my tablet that's misbehaving. Now I am curious, and I will be looking up what Zune means in any language. Colors. Never managed to get the right shades of color to make things look realistic. But hey, it's a cartoon. It doesn't need to be realistic. It just needs to be understandable. So for these mallets colors, I think I'm in the no man's land where the color isn't quite dark enough to justify my switching these black letters to white, but it's also not light enough to have enough contrast with the black letters. I'm also fixing some remaining glitches here. So I think I will need to change that color a bit. So either I make it lighter and not change the letters, or I make it darker and then I switch the letters to white. Yeah, I think I will do this. Okay, so now I'm using select by colors, and I'm selecting all the zones with this particular shade of orange or brownish orange, and I can use this tool. So darker, more saturated, maybe a lot darker. I think it should be darker than the table. Okay. Yeah, I think my computer is really struggling here. Okay, let's do this once and maybe a second time to go even darker. Lightness. Okay. This will be a very dark, very noble wood. Maybe make it a bit more red as well. I wonder what type of wood that would be. Maple or oak? Maybe oak. Maybe even a bit darker again. Alright, I think this is good. And then I will be, let's see, I already have this selection here. I think if I just invert it, I can select the letters. Let's see if this works. Okay, I'm going to go back to my overlay layer and use some white. Okay, yeah. This will give a bunch more contrasts to have this be readable. Who cares about being realistic? Whack-A-Mole mallets don't have stuff written on them anyway. So forget about realism. I'll come back to that one later. Kill. Maybe I should make kill red. Maple is a very light wood. This could be red oak. Thank you, Just a Monad. Maple. Why did I make this mistake? Yeah, I think you're right. It's a light wood, but it's reddish, isn't it? By the way, you mentioned Haskell yesterday. And I haven't learned that language, but I remembered as I was chatting about this yesterday with you that I had like everybody hired into Google. I had a bunch of technical interviews, and one of the interviewers asked me a question that I've, in hindsight, find really good. I think it's, on the moment, I found it a bit surprising. But basically what he did is he asked me first whether I had any familiarity with things like functional programming. And I didn't. And maybe he also just looked at my resume first to make sure I wasn't well versed in those. And then he wrote, I don't know if he had prepared it earlier or not, but he had maybe 20 or 30 lines of code on the whiteboard in Haskell. And obviously I had no idea how to read that language, but his question was pretty much asking me to try to figure out what the code did. I don't really remember what it did, but I think it was an interesting question in that he was asking for following my thought process as I was trying to understand what it was doing. Okay, so these are made of red oak, let's say. Yeah, and I should get the lighting better. So if the light is coming from this way, I feel like at least this part should be a bit darker. Let's try it this way. That interviewer his name was, well, still is, Andrew Eland. I'm not sure if he's still working at Google. I really liked him as an interviewer as well. I remember some of the other questions he asked me, and none of them was really the classic sort of coding interviews. Maybe there was some of that, but I feel like his questions were a lot more interesting than the average. I think he worked on maps. Let's give these some shadow. And that sound you hear is the space bar. It's used to help panning around the drawing. Let's see how this works. Okay. So this is like this. I'm trying to have something that looks like it's wood. The hammers remind me of your Roadrunner cartoon from a while ago. There's an Acme vibe to all this Coyote cartoon. You're right. Yes, absolutely. So much gratuitous violence. But yeah, I, like many others, I grew up watching these mostly Tex Avery, but also all the Acme, yeah, Looney Tunes, all these animals hitting one another with weird tools like anvils. You are absolutely right that a lot of my references come from there. And also other people, I think, other people's references. I hope that people can relate to what I mean by those. And yeah, obviously this being a game of whack-a-mole, it needs to be, you need to hit on stuff. But there's also the image of if you kill a product, it's a bit like whacking it on the head. So I think the image works well. I'm going to make my signature white instead of black. Let's see how I can do this properly. Just making it white because the background is dark. And even though I don't want it to stand out too much, I think it will still look nicer. They have a very nice graphical list. You mean the cartoons, the Looney Tunes, or the Acme? What's going on here? Like the moles, they come back after some time in some other form, I guess. Yes, it needs to be a repetitive process, because you rename something once, and then it comes back up, and then you rename it a second time, and then you kill it, but then it comes back in some other shape. Absolutely. Okay, so opacity, something like this, so that it's visible but not too obvious. The link above. Oh, I see. Looney Tunes, fandom. Okay, list of Acme products. Alright, I'll check this out afterwards. Thank you for the link. Let's see. I don't think I need a whole lot of shadows on this. Maybe a little bit on the mallets. Why isn't my I'm doing some keyboard shortcuts that don't seem to do what I expect. There we go. Maybe I'm going to say it now. Except for Reader. Yes, Reader is killed and doesn't come back. Although we don't know yet, right? When was it killed? 2011? 12? Never say never. We don't know. It might come back as something else. Something is going on with my keyboard that I'm not quite liking. Okay, I think this works now. So I'm selecting these and I'm going to add some shadows. We're waiting for the second coming of Reader. Yes, we are like, Reader is like another religion. We are waiting for the return of the Messiah. The Reader Messiah. The RSS to rule them all. 2020 being the apocalypse. Yes. This could be synchronized. I agree. Yeah, if there was 1 year that would feel like an apocalypse, I think 2020 would absolutely qualify. What's the, I think my Catholic culture isn't quite up to par. Is it supposed to be, is the Messiah coming back at the moment of the apocalypse, or is it afterwards or before? I must say I am clueless. And I need to add some highlights. Let's see if this looks natural. A bit after. Okay. Thanks. I'm trying to get the right angle for my highlight here. I think that's a bit too much of a highlight. So let's try it this way. Yeah, I think that's better. I didn't do any catechism. I didn't either, obviously. That is something to look up. At least I will, after the stream. I was thinking I would do some drawing, and I will go back with some extra learning on religions. Always more stuff to learn. Okay. This is where my lack of knowledge of shadow theory is very obvious. Doesn't look very natural, but I will make do with what I have until I read a proper book about it. I'm also going to add some shadows on the table. Okay, so this is the base color. It's going to be a bit darker, maybe something like this. Okay. So the body of the mallet is projecting a shadow, and then the handles, they will, I guess the bottom of the handle is closer to the table than the bit that is attached to the head of the mallets. So it means that there should be an angle like I drew it. I think so. this, maybe? No, I'm not quite sure that's right. Because the mallet is still on the table. The way I had it, it looked like it was hovering over the table. Yeah, I don't think I got my shadows quite right. Maybe I should refrain from making any shadows. What is MMH? Oh, does that mean you're thinking, you're hesitating about something? Or you're just agreeing with my self-proclaimed ignorance about shadows? The second shadow. Better now. Thanks. Thank you. I need a shadow consultant. I could always just design everything in a 3D modeling program, and then see where the shadows fall, but that will take me 3 weeks instead of 2 hours. Okay, I think that's too much of a shadow. And all that for a silly joke. That will be a reduced size image where all the details will be hidden. That would be an interesting one-off experiment. Yes. I think a few episodes ago I had, have you tried clay sculpting? I actually made one of those Zuzim's characters, the ones with the huge nose that are part of Gmail. I made one of those in clay because I was, what was I doing? Yes, I was just experimenting. It was hard to balance because the nose was so huge that it would just fall down. Alright. I think we are getting close. Maybe I will do a bit of differentiated shadow inside. Let's see. Should it be maybe more like this? To show that the bottom is darker than the entrance. Alright, I think this should be good enough. I'm missing a small part of my G here, so we can't really see it. Looks like I'm missing a letter. So I'm going to select all the black stuff and then go into my overlay layer and add a last bit of white here. All right. I think that's about it. My shadows and perspective aren't great, to say the least, but I think it's recognizable. And it's nearly 2.5 hours. That's enough for now. Thank you. Thank you for watching me draw for so long. I think next thing I should be doing for this stream is maybe have an ending screen or something to say bye-bye instead of just cutting it off. Real nice. +1. Thank you. Thank you, Pierre. All right. I will probably stream again soon. I don't know exactly when, but it's probably best to follow, and I think you get an email or some kind of notification, and the videos will be available afterwards anyway if you miss it and are interested. So thanks a lot, and have a great end of your, depending on where you are, end of your Sunday or start of your Monday. Have a good week, and see you all in the next stream. Bye bye.